remote access in Windows Server 2016. Now, what is remote access? Remote access means it allows us to connect the clients from the remote locations. Remote location, that means if suppose your the client or the users are in the environment, in the network, so they can access the resources of the organizations within the network. Like suppose if the users are within the local network or in the office building, in the organization's building or organizations environment, so they can access the resources of the organizations locally. That means web servers, mail servers, database servers, file servers. So they can access all these resources, printers and all these, they can access locally. But when these users goes out of the organization's local network, if they goes out to on the site, or suppose they are working from home, they want to work from home, or they are working from on site, so they don't have an access of their local network resources. Now we can do what? We can provide the connection to those users who's working online or from home or from on the site. Now for that, they can have only the access through internet. Now internet is what? A public network. But the public networks are what? Not secure. So if suppose the users are trying to access the resources of organization and they wanted to access it through the internet, then it is not secure to provide the connection. So this remote access allow us to give the connection, secure connection to those users who's working from home or working online from the on-site. So we can provide the connection securely, and we can provide that by using this remote access technology. So this remote access technology provide various solutions that allow secure access to an organization's infrastructure from different locations. And the remote access server role in Windows Server 2016 provides 4 remote access options. So these are the technologies which we can use to provide the connection. Like we have direct access, and we have VPN. VPN and direct access do the both do the same thing, but VPN do what? It provides the virtual private network in an internet network. Like internet is a public network that is not secure. So VPN do what? It will create a private network within the public network. So it creates the secure network from organizations' infrastructures to the client who's sitting outside of the infrastructure. Then direct access is a new technology. It do what? It do the same thing what VPN do, but for VPN users have to do what? They have to create the dial-up, and they have to do always when they want to connect to the infrastructure of organization, they have to dial their network they have to dial to connect it. That means they have to manually dial it. But direct access do what? It will provide the user option to automatically connect the infrastructure of organization. It will dial automatically, it will set direct access. That means when the user is within the organization environment in the network, so they will do what? They will automatically connect because they are in the local network. But when they go out on internet, when they go out on the different location, when they are on internet, and they automatically connect to the infrastructure of organization. They don't need to dial it manually. So this direct access do what? It will connect automatically users to the local network. One more thing this remote access service do, it will provide the routing option also. Routing option, that means it can work. Our Windows Server 2016 can work as a router. So it can work as a router to connect two different LAN network. That means if we want to connect our machine, our network, or we are having a small network and we want to connect the network to the outside network, so this routing option is also available that will do the routing for us. And not even a routing, it can also do the NATing, which routers also do. So we can use the remote access services to do the routing to connect our local network to the external network. Then also it can provide the netting feature, which can be, netting is a network address translation, so we can configure the netting also. In a routing we can do the static routing, and even we can do the dynamic routing also. In a dynamic routing we can use the protocol RIP. that is routing information protocol, because the routing information protocol is the open source protocol, so we can use that protocol also, which will do the dynamic routing. So we can use our machine, our Windows Server machine as a router, can function like a router. Then also we can use it to configure the web application proxy. This web application proxy will work a proxy, a web proxy for the ADFS servers. ADFS server is a different technology, and for that ADFS server, this web application proxy will work like a proxy for them. Now we will see what is this web application proxy and what it do for ADFS. Now next is what? Managing remote access. So we can manage the remote access server role by using the remote access management console, and also we can use routing and remote access console for managing the remote access. Now routing and remote access console is the old one, which is coming from 2000, Windows 2000. It provides the routing feature, netting feature. So if we want to configure the routing, netting and dial-up connections, then we can configure it from here, routing and remote access, and also VPN. Now direct access is a new feature. So if you want to configure the direct access feature, then we can configure it from this console, that is remote access management console. Then we can use Windows PowerShell also. We can use Windows PowerShell also to do the configuration or see the configuration by using these commands like set ADS server, get ADS server, set remote access, get remote access, ADA, DA, direct access. DA means direct access. To get the information, direct access server, get DA server, to set DA server, remote access, we can set the routing features. So we can use this Windows PowerShell command also to manage it. Now first, for installing it, we can install it from the add and remove add roles and feature command. From this add role features, we can install the role for the remote access in our server. Now let's see how we can install it, and then we'll see how we can configure it also. Now this is our server 2. This is a server 2. It is a member server of our domain. Our domain controller is server 1. Now this server 2 is having a two interface connected. It has two interface connected. One is our local network, that is 192.168.0.201. So this is our local network 192.168.0.0, and it is also connected to the external network, that is 12.0.0.0. So this is a machine which is having two interfaces, which is connected to two different networks. So we can use this machine for doing the remote access. So for doing the remote access, that means we can use the machine as a router, and for that we need to have a two interface at least. So one is for the internal network and one is to connect the external network. Now here I'm going to install the role. So for installing the role, we'll go to the manage, add and role features. Then we'll go on to select the role based and feature based installation. Then select the server which you want to install. So this is our server, server 2. Then next. Now here in the roles, we have this remote access here. So when you select the remote access, it will show you this description here, that what it is going to do. I have selected it. It is not showing any feature need to be added, so it is not showing any feature here, that which feature you have to add, but it will show the features. I will show you when. Right now we will not select any feature. Next, now here it is saying that remote access integrates the direct access VPN and web application proxy in a single management console. So we have these three different things that we can manage it from the single console. Then deploy direct access to allow managed domain joined computers to connect to the internal corporate network as a direct access client, and connectivity is seamless and transparent and is available anytime client computers are located on the internet. And direct access administrator can remotely manage clients, ensuring that the mobile computers are kept up to date with security updates and corporate compliance requirements. Then deploying VPN Now VPN do what? To allow the client computers running operating system not supported by direct access. Now it is still available, see, which is not supporting the direct access. Direct access is a new technology, so it is not supporting in the old machines. So if it is not supporting the direct access, then we can use or configured in a work group, so we can to remotely access corporate network over a VPN connection. So VPN is the same as direct access, but direct access is the new technology. And also direct access, for the direct access the machine must be in the domain join. If it is not joined to the domain, then direct access will not work. But VPN can work with the work group also. If the machine is in work group, a client machine, still it can join the domain. It can access the resources. Then this deploying this web application proxy, it is a published selected HTTP and HTTPS based application from your corporate network to client devices outside of the corporate network, and it can use the ADFS to ensure that users are authenticated before they gain access to published application. And web application proxy also provides the proxy functionality for your ADFS server. So basically this web application proxy is only for ADFS. It only provides the functionality for ADFS. If you try to use it without ADFS, it will not work. Then we can configure the routing and remote access services for routing features using the routing and remote access console. So we can configure normal routing here, we can configure the web application proxy, we can configure VPN, we can configure direct access also. Okay, next. Now here it is saying what you want. You want only direct access and VPN, you want only this, or you want only routing features, or you want only web application proxy. Now here you have to decide what you want. It can support all these three things, but you have to decide that what you want to do with this this server. I want to do direct access, so I will select this. Now when I select this, then it is saying that for direct access you need these features. It was not saying these features option when we selected the remote access, because it select the features based on the option we select here. So it needs these features, including the web servers also, IIS services. So it is going to install IIS services also. Then if you select routing, so okay, the routing requirement, the features requirement is already selected when we selected this direct access. Then web application proxy, when you select, so it needs a different features, but it is also selected when we select this direct access. So we can select either of these separately, or we can select all of them. What we want to do, depending on that we can select. Next, it is installing web services. So it is telling about the web services, that this is the web services, it is installing the web services. And then additional roles, services related to the web services, if you want, then you can select some of them, or you don't want, then you don't select. I will go with the default. Now this is what we have selected, and it is going to install all of these. So I will select restart if it is required, and then I will go on to install it. Installation will take a little time, then it will complete the installation, and then it will say to do the after installation task. Okay, now it has finished the installation of this remote access role, and now after the installation it says that the configure the role by using this getting started wizard for direct access and VPN. This is for configuring the direct access and VPN, and also it is showing this is for direct access, VPN and routing. So if you want to do that, you can select this option to start the wizard and configure it. Then here it is saying configuring the web application proxy role, because we have installed selected to install the web application proxy also. So it is saying that open this wizard to configure the web application proxy. Now if I close this here, then still you will see the question, the explanatory sign here in the notification. So when you open that, it will still tell you to do these things. Now when you open this wizard, getting started wizard for direct access and VPN, so it will open like this. So this is a wizard. and here you can select to deploy both direct access and VPN. That is recommended. You can do the both, direct access for the new clients and the domain joined clients, and VPN for the old clients which does not support direct access, and also the clients which is in work group. Then we can only configure direct access, or we can only configure the VPN. So if we want to do that, then we can select one of these options. I will not do that right now, so I will close it from here. We can start the wizard anytime from here, from the tool, and from here we have remote access management. So from here we can start the wizard anytime. Then the next is still it is showing the explanatory sign because it is having option. It is saying still to open the web application proxy wizard. Now when you open this, so this will allow you to configure the web application proxy. Now we can configure this only when we have a DFS server configured. So if we have a DFS server configured with the DFS server environment already configured, then we can use this web application proxy. Right now if you don't have this ADFS configured, then you can't use this proxy, web application proxy. Now this is what we have installed it. We have installed the remote access. Now we'll see what we can do with it. One more thing is the network policy server. Now remember, we have not selected this to install. We have not selected this, but when you install the remote access services, this network policy server role will also install automatically. Let me show you that first. Basically it is a different role, but when we install the remote access, it installs with it. I will show you this. If I go to add and remove feature and say I want to install this, so if you go to features, okay. This is network policy and access services. So this is network policy and access services. It is not showing that it is installed, but when you go to tools here, you can see the network policy server is installed. So it comes with the remote access services. Now this network policy services do what? It provides the authentication services for the network services. So what is this network policy server? This network policy server in Windows Server 2016 provides the following functions. It provides the radius server which is used to provide the authentication for the different network services centrally. So within those different network services, it also provides the security policies for VPN and dial-up connections. And that is why when we installed these remote access services, this also installed this network policy server also. So network policy server, this radius server is your network policy server which performs the centralized connection authentication, authorization and accounting for wireless authenticating switches and dial-up and VPN connections also. So it do provide the policies for connecting authentication and authorization on accounting for different network communications like wireless connections, authenticating the switches, routers and dial-up and VPN connections also. Then radius proxy, you can configure the connection request policies that indicate which connection request their network policy server will forward to other radius servers and to which radius server you want to forward connection request. So it can also provide the proxy, radius proxy, that means it can send the authentication request to other radius server. It can do the authentication by its own, or also it can send the request to other server also. So this is for authenticating the VPN connection, and because of that it is installed by default. Now network policy server support the policies that manage and control the connections from remote access clients. So two types of policies exist there: connection request policies, which used when network policy server should act as a radius server or radius proxy. Then network policies, these used to authenticate and authorize the connection attempt. You set condition and constraints to control access, and when you first deploy the network policy server, remote access is denied, and you must configure at least one policy to allow access. Now it is denied when you suppose configure the VPN first or direct access, so the policy server is denying all the services request. So it will deny the request until you create a policy to allow the request. Now how the policy works here: first it will start here, and when it will check, first it will check are there policy to process or not for the request. So when the request comes to the server, it will check whether it is having any policy to process or not. Now if it is having a policy, then it will go on to do the policy processing, and if it is no, then it will directly reject the connection. Now if it is having a policy for processing, then it will do what? It will check does the connection attempt matches the policy conditions or not, the policy condition which we have configured. Now if it is not matching, then it will go for the next policy. It will check the policies one by one. So it will check the first policy, and if it is not matching, then it will go to the next policy. Now if it is matched with the policy, then it will do what? It will say is the remote access permission for the user account set to deny or not to deny. Now if it is deny, yes, then it will reject the connection, and if it is no, then it will go on to select this. It will go on to say that is the remote access permission for the user account set to allow access. So whether it is deny or not allow, or allow. Now if it is allow, yes, then it will go on to do this. That means it will say does the connection attempt matches the user object and profile settings. So if the user object and profile setting is matching, then it will accept the connection, and if it is no, then again it will deny the connection, reject the connection. And then if the remote access permission for the user account set to allow access, no, then it will check here that is the remote access permission on the deny policy set to deny remote access permission. If it is yes, then it will reject the connection. If it is no, then it will check again this thing. So this is how the policy works, and it comes by default when you install the remote access services. Now configuring the routing and NAT with the remote access role. So how we can configure and what we can configure? We can configure the routing and remote access server, RRAS. This RRAS is a software based router. So we can use our machine as a router, and it can route LAN to LAN. That means it can connect one LAN network to other LAN network. Then it can connect the LAN to WAN. That means LAN network to WAN network. Then it can use the demand dial-up and also NAT traffic. Then it supports the following type of routing: static routing for V4 and IPv4 and IPv6. It can support the IGMP routing, it can support the RIP routing, and also it can do the netting. A good option for directing traffic between networks with light to medium traffic. Now this is to light to medium traffic, that which we can handle by it can handle by the server. But if you are having a heavy traffic and lots of processing, then you should use a separate router for it. Now if it is doing the simple routing, so simple routing scenario will do what? Where we have our Windows Server machine which is having two interfaces connected. One interface is connected to one network and the other interface is connected to other network, and this will do what? We will configure the routing here in our routing and remote access server, and it will do what? It will connect the network 1 to network 2. Then advanced routing scenario where we have one network here, we have different multiple network, like for example we have network 1, network 2, network 3. Now here we will configure the routing. We can configure static routing, or we can also use the dynamic routing RIP. where we can configure that from this network 1 to go to network 2, it can go from this interface or this first hop, that means RRAS server 2. Then to go to third network, it can go from this server, this routing and remote access server. So it can work like a routers, different routers connected together. In this scenario, we have to configure the routing here, whether we configure static routing or dynamic routing. In this scenario, it will do a normal routing which is connected to two different networks. If we have multiple networks, then we have to configure the routing, whether it's static or dynamic. Then we can use it for the demand dial-up routing also. In this scenario, what happens, in network 1 is a local network and network 2 is on the other side of the other country or other city, maybe other side A and side B, and those sites are connected together with the WAN network or internet connection. And we are using what, the dial-up connection. We can either use the VPN or dial-up connection to join this router 1, this remote access server 1 to remote access server 2. So we have to configure the dial-up connection here on server 1 and server 2 to connect these servers, and then they connect to site A and site B. So simply it is what, VPN which is doing the VPN connection, which is creating the virtual private network in the internet, and it is connecting LAN to LAN. Then also we can do this for the netting. Now netting is what? Netting is the network address translation, where our LAN network have a private IP addresses. In a LAN network, we have a private IP addresses. Now remember, the private IP addresses cannot go to WAN or internet. If your machine try to access the internet, it will not allow, because these private IP addresses are not allowed on WAN networks. On WAN networks or internet, only public IP addresses can go and can be allowed. So what we can do, we can configure our routing and remote access server to use the netting, network address translation. So in one interface of our remote access server, we'll have a public IP address which is connected to internet, and the other interface we are having the private IP address and which is connected to our local. So it will do what? It will do the network address translation for our local private IP addresses. So when suppose this 172.16.0.51 comes and try to go to the internet, so it will first go to our NAT server, remote access server, which is doing the netting. So it will remove this private address and add the public address into the source, and then it will send the packet to internet. And when the reply comes from the internet, then it will change the IP address, remove the public and add the private address, and go send the packet to the client here. So it do what? It do the translation. It converts private IP addresses to public addresses, and public addresses, when come back, then it changes to the private addresses, so that we can, our private addresses, our local network which is having the private address, can connect to the internet using the public addresses. So it do the translation, and this is what the NAT. So we can use this is actually a job of router, but we can use our Windows server with remote access services configured. We can reuse it as a router also. So how we can configure that, we have already installed. So if we want to configure a VPN or direct access, then we'll go to this remote access management console. Now this console will allow us to configure direct access or VPN. So here it is saying you want to configure direct access and VPN, and also it says you can configure the web application proxy server also. So both these things we can configure it from here, remote access management console. It is showing that this server is available and we can configure it from here. If you select this, then it opens the wizard again. Here it says run the getting started wizard and run the remote access setup wizard. So if you want to run the wizard, remember when after installation it has given a wizard here. So if you want to start that wizard again, so you can select this and it starts the wizard again. This is the wizard. Or if we want to configure only the routing things, routing or netting, then we have to go to this routing and remote access console. And from here we can configure, it is saying welcome to routing and remote access. Here we can configure VPN also. We can also configure VPN from here. We can configure dial-up remote access. We can configure the NAT from here. Also we can configure the LAN routing. We can use it as a basic firewall also, because when all the traffic is going through this this server, we can filter the traffic. We can allow or deny some users to go through this router or go through this remote access server. Right now it is you can see the a small arrow, it is showing down. That means it is not running right now. It is not showing anything here. It is not running. So if we want to configure it, then we have to right click on it, and then we can select to configure and enable the routing and remote access. Then with these all, we have the policy, network policy server also installed. So when you check that, network policy server, so in that network policy server we have option to create policies. So we have option to create policy for radius server, dial-up or VPN connection. Now if we are doing only the routing or netting, then we don't require this. It is not doing anything for that. But if we are configuring the dial-up connection or VPN, so it needs to create the policy here. So if you drop down this, you have the option to select the creating only the radius server for authenticating the wireless network or wired network. That means it can allow it can give the authentication and authorization services for wireless and wired network connections. Like suppose we are having a router here, wireless router, and we want to we want the clients to connect to the wireless network, but we want them to authenticate by the radius server. So radius server will do what? It will authenticate those users which is allowed by Active Directory. So if the users are in the Active Directory, then they are allowed to access the wireless network. For that we can use this, we can use the configuration for radius also. We can configure this radius, or also we can configure the radius server for dial-up or VPN connection. Now if we are doing the normal routing, then we don't require it. Now when we configure it, we will see here radius servers, servers group. That means the servers, we can have multiple radius servers. Then we have this radius clients. Radius clients are those machines or those servers which is using the radius server for authentication. Like if we are using the VPN, if we are configuring the VPN, so VPN server is a client for the radius server. So VPN server will be the client for the radius server, because VPN server is using the services of authentication from this radius server. So it will called as a client of radius server. Radius client is not it is not meaning the client machines. It means the servers who is getting the services of radius. And here you will see the policies. We have connection request policies and we have network policies. Connection request policies depends, it actually checks the health of the connection. Use Windows authentication for all users, how it is authenticating. You can see the policy here. Policy is enabled. This is the default policy, and it is for network of type of network access server is not specified, but we can select this remote access or VPN or dial-up. So we can go for conditions here. We can add the conditions here. It is there is a condition here, added day and time restriction. It is saying on Sunday evening to Monday, Tuesday to this, and this is the condition. It is only a condition, and then what we want, allow or deny, we can decide here. And then we have other settings here. Authentication method, what will be the authentication method we use. There is an option to use CHAP and PAP. Authentication server, we have accounting options. And what we are going to do, I will show you what we are going to do now. We are going to configure this a simple routing where we have a server here, our remote access server, and which is having a two interface connected. One interface is having the IP address of this network, and the other interface is having the IP address of this network. So when we configure the routing here, normally these are different networks, so they are not connecting to each other directly. So what we do, we configure the routing on this routing and remote access server. So what it will do, it will connect those two different networks. For that, in all these machines in these networks, we will use a gateway. We will configure the gateway of this remote access server. That means in this network, we will configure the gateway of this IP address of this interface of this remote access server, and on this network we will configure the gateway as this IP address of this interface of this router remote access server. So when they want to go to out of this network, they will send the request to this router. This is actually our remote access server, and it will do the routing and it will send the network to send the data to this site. Then also we can enable this server to do the DHCP relay agent also. If suppose we are having two networks here, and in one network we have DHCP server, in other network we don't have a DHCP server. So these clients, if they want to get the IP address from the DHCP server, so they will send the broadcast discover packet in this network, and it is a broadcast packet, so the router will not forward the broadcast packet. So if this becomes the relay agent, so what it will do, it will forward the broadcast, it will take the broadcast of DHCP from here and it will forward in this site to this DHCP server directly. When we configure the relay agent, we configure the IP address of DHCP server of this network. So it takes the broadcast from this site and then send the broadcast, convert the broadcast into unicast and send it as a unicast to this DHCP server. Then this DHCP server will do what? It will send the reply to the router DHCP relay agent, and then the relay agent will do what? It will broadcast the reply to this network. So everyone will get the reply, and the machine who is replying it, requesting it, it will get the reply, and then it will send the request to get the IP address again as a broadcast. Then the DHCP relay agent will send the broadcast as a unicast to this DHCP server. So by using the DHCP relay agent, a client of the different network can get the IP address from the different networks DHCP server. So that all things we can do in this routing and remote access server, and this is basically a routing feature. This is a feature for routers, but this is also we can do it in our Windows server. So this is what we are going to do, a normal routing. And if we want to do the multiple advanced routing, then we need to have a multiple networks, like we have network 1, network 2, network 3, network 4. Then we have to configure in advanced routing. That means we have to configure the static route or dynamic route. That means in this router we have to configure that if you want to go to this network which is not connected to this router, so you have to go to this first hop. So this interface will be the first hop address or gateway address to go to this network 3. And on this router, this network 1 is not connected directly, only network 2 and network 3 is connected. So this router knows that this network 2 and network 1 I know, but network 2 and network 3 knows by the router 2, server 2, but the network 1 does not know by this server 2. So here we have to configure the routing, and we have to say that for network 1, go to this gateway. So go from this gateway for network 1 on this server, and on this server we will say go to this gateway for network 3. That is what the dynamic routing. In dynamic routing we have a static, we can configure this statically, or we can use the protocol RIP to use this to do this routing. Actually it is a dynamic routing. Then we can configure the netting also. For netting also same scenario. Dial-up is actually VPN, But NATing is also same scenario where we have our machine connected to two different networks. One is a private network and other one is a public network. So it will still do the routing. It will still connect the machines of this network to the other network. But here in the other side we have the internet. We have a lots of different networks, and also it is a public IP address. Then we have to translate also, and for that we can enable the NATing here. So we have to enable the NATing here in this router to do this, to support this scenario. Is we having a one server 1, that is our server 1, which is a domain controller, and it is having a 192.168.0.0 network. And we have server 2, which is connected to this domain controller, and which is a member of the domain through this interface, and it is having the IP address of 192.168.0.0 network. And we will use this machine as a remote access server, and which is having the network interface, other interface, which is connected to a server 3, which is we have a server 3 here, which is in the different network, and which is connected to this server 2 by using this interface, which has the same network IP of this server 3, that is 12.0.0. So we will do what we will do is configure the normal routing here on server 2 to connect these two different network, this server 1 different network, server 3 different network, and we'll try to connect them together. Then also we can assume this server 3 as an internet, we can assume like it is internet. So we can configure the NATing also here. And NATing will do what? It will not only connect the two network, it will also do the translation of private network to public network. 192 is the private IP and 12.0.0 is the public IP. So it will convert the private IP to public IP also. So I'll show you how you can enable the routing, default routing, basic routing, and also I'll show you, if you want, then you can enable the NATing also. And for advanced routing, if you are having multiple routers, multiple RAS servers connected different subnets, then what we can use the advanced routing also. We can use static or dynamic routing also. So we will see this, and this is our configuration. So let's see how we can configure it. This is our server 2, which has two interfaces. One interface is having 192.168.0.0 network, which is connected to our domain controller, our internal network we can say, and the other interface is having the IP address of 12.0.0, which is our external network we can assume. We have server 1 here, which is our domain controller, which is under 192.168.0.0 network, and we have the server 2, which is connected to this network. This is connected to this server 1 through this network from one interface. So here on server 2 it is connected this router, the DC server 1, by using this network. Then by using this network, this interface and this network is connected to the other server, that is server 3, and this is server B, which is in this network 12.0.0, and it is connected to server 2 also. Now we'll try to see, I will try to ping, I'll open the CMD here. Now I will try to check the connectivity to our server 2. Server 2 IP address is 12.0.0.1. So it is connecting to server 2 from this server 3. Now I will try to connect server 1, that is 192.168.200, and it is not connecting. It is saying failure because it is a different network IP, and we cannot connect that IP because we are in different network. We are this machine is in different network, and the network which we are trying to connect is a different network, so we can't connect directly. Now if we want to connect it, then we have to have a router in between. So server 2 will act as a router because this machine can directly connect to the server router 2 server 2, that is going to be our router. Now when this machine wants to connect the other network, so it has to go through the router, so it must know the IP address of router also. So here we have to configure the IP address of router. So we'll go to the properties and the IPv4 here, and here we have to configure the gateway, and the gateway will be our server 2, that server 2 which is having this IP address to connect this network. So now it knows about the router and it can connect the router, that is our server 2. It can connect the router, but still it cannot connect server 1 because we have not configured the routing till now. Now it is saying what? Timeout. Now it is saying timeout. Previously it was saying failure, but now it is saying timeout. Why it is saying timeout? Because now it is sending the request to the router, this server 12.0.0.1, but it is not giving any reply because the server is not configured. So after configuring, it can connect. Then when you check it from server 1, it will do the same thing. So this is server 1, and if I try to do the check the connectivity, so it can connect the server 2 with this interface with the 201 IP address. It is connected server 2, but when we try to connect the server 3 which is in the different network, it says it can't connect and it is not getting it. It is saying the reply, it is getting the reply from itself and it is not connected. So this machines, the machines from this network also must know the gateway address also. So here also I will configure the gateway. Gateway is not right here, so gateway address I will give 201. This is our server 2. This is our server 2 IP address, which is going to be the gateway, which is going to be the router for our this network and for the other network which is it is going to join. So let's go to server 2 and configure the routing there. Now this is server 2 and this is going to be the router. So for configuring the routing, we'll go to tools and we will start routing and remote access console, because this remote access console only allow you to configure direct access and VPN. So other things we will configure it from here. Now for configuring the routing or VPN also, we will select this. We right click on the server and we select configure and enable the routing and remote access. It opens this wizard. Here we have to go next and then we can select what we want to do. So it can allow you to configure the remote access, that is dial-up or VPN connection, or you want only NATing, then you can configure NATing here also. It will allow the internal clients to connect to the internet using one public IP addresses. One public address, that means on the other interface it will be the public address, and one interface it is connected to the local network. So it can do the NATing. Then we can use this to configure only VPN and NATing, VPN with NATing, or you can select this to secure the connection between two private networks. Two private networks, that means you will directly connect two branch offices. That is what we are going to do. Like we are connecting, this is actually a dial-up connection actually, which connect from one branch office to other branch office. Or you can select custom. It is here in this, it is not giving single options here, it is giving both options one by one. So if you go for custom, then you will get single options here, like you want to configure VPN, or you want to configure only dial-up access, or you want to only configure the demand dial-up connection using the branch office routing, or you want to configure the NATing, or you want to configure only the LAN routing. So I want to configure the LAN routing. We have two different LANs and we want to connect them together. So I will select LAN routing. Or if I want, then I can select the NATing also, or I can enable it after configuring this routing also. So I'll go with routing right now, and I have selected only routing, so I'll say finish and it is going to enable it. It is saying start the service. I say yes, ready, and it is now enabling it and starting the services. And now done. Now after when you enable it, you will see the arrow is going up, green, and when you select this, you will see all these things. So what you have here, you have network interfaces, and in that you will see the interfaces, interface 1, interface 2, which is dedicated. This is the loopback interface. This is connecting to internal interface, virtual. These are real interface, which is dedicated, connected, and these are the name. And if you want to better understand the interface, then you should rename your interface as a internal or external. If suppose you are configuring the NATing, you are not configuring the LAN routing, you are configuring the routing, NATing. So for NATing, you should understand that what interface is the local interface and what interface is the external interface. So you should use this. You should rename the interface so that we can understand what is the external interface. Right now we are doing only routing. Then this is for the logging option and also NPS. So if suppose the policies are applying here, so we can see here. Then this is for IPv4 and this is for IPv6. In general, we have these two interfaces connected. You can see the IP addresses also, and the packet incoming and outgoing you can see. And here is static route. There is no route. Right now we have not configured any routing. So if we have multiple routers connected, multiple subnets are there, and we are connecting multiple subnets with the different routing remote access servers, then we have to configure the routes, static routes, or even in the static we can configure the dynamic route also. Right now we are doing only connecting two different LANs, so we don't have to do anything now. Now it is doing automatically, we don't have to do anything. Now we will check whether it is working or not. So let's check whether those two machines from the different networks are able to connect to each other or not. So let's go to server 1 and server 3. Now I am on server 1, and it was not connecting previously to the other network, this 12.2. Now I will try to ping again, and we can see now we are getting the reply from 12.0.02. So why we are getting the reply? Because of the router, now we can connect the other network, and we can see this from server 3 also. Now from server 3, which is in this 12.0.0 network, it was not able to connect this 192.168.0.0 network machine, this server 1 IP. But now when I try to ping again, now it is connecting, because our routing and remote access server is start working as a LAN router, and it is doing what? It is doing the routing between these two networks, and it is providing the connection between these two networks. Now if we have multiple routers and different multiple subnets, then we can configure the routing, advanced routing also. So we can use to create the static route also, static route, or there is a routing table also there. We can see the routing table also. Right now when you see the routing table, it does not have any, it has only the gateway as 000. You can see the gateways are also already 000. It is not having any gateway. So you have to configure, so you can configure the static routes. So you will configure the interface, like which interface you want to reach to the other network. Let's, for example, we have the other network. We have two networks right now, 192.168.1.0.0. Then we have the other network, which is 12.0.0. So both networks are connected to the router, so it knows about both the network. We can see here both networks, our machine knows network this and network this. Now if suppose there is a third network also, but which is connected to other routing and remote access server, now we have to, this network, our router does not know about that. So we have to inform this router that there is another network and which is connected to other router, and if we want to reach to that network, then we can go from which route, which gateway, and that we configure here under the static routing. So we can select the new, we can select which interface you can go from to go to the other network. What is the destination network? Let's say for example the destination network is I'll say 30.0.0.0, and what is the subnet mask? I can add. Then we have to mention the gateway, the first hop which is used to reach to this network. So I'll say that this is 12.0.0.3, let's for example, and we can add this. So this will be the root here. Now there is no network there, but we can configure it like this network with this subnet mask. If you want to reach to this network, then you can go through by this IP address gateway and this interface. Same as if you don't want to configure statically, then what we can do, we can configure the dynamic routing also. We can configure the dynamic routing and we can do it from here. From general we can select the new routing protocol, and from here we can select the dynamic routing protocol RIP. And also if we want to create the DHCP relay agent, then we can select this to create the DHCP relay agent. So suppose if you want to create the DHCP relay agent, then you will select this and it will give you the option here to select the relay agent, and here you will add the interface which is connected to DHCP relay agent server, that is DHCP, and you can select what will be the hop count and bother site, this boot threshold. So this will be the DHCP relay agent which is connected to DHCP. So this interface is connected to DHCP. It will get the request from here and it will send the request to DHCP. Then we can configure the routing protocol, and that is what this RIP. And for RIP we can configure the interface only. We want to use this interface for RIP. And what will be the RIP configuration? This is the RIP properties, and this is the property for the RIP protocol which you will configure. Add the cost route, add the hop count, announce count route. If you have a security, you can add the neighbors broadcast, and then some advanced options. So this is the interface. Then you will add the other interface, which interface you want to use in the routing. So you have to add all the interface, because this is the routing dynamic routing RIP. So you have to add interfaces which you want to use it in the RIP protocol. So you just have to add the interface which you want to use. So we will add all the interface which you want to use. So we will add both the interfaces. Then the routing it will do by itself. It will find the path automatically. The path which we have created here manually, it will find the path automatically here by itself. That is what the dynamic routing. Then if we want, then we can enable the NATing also. So for enabling the NATing also we have option here. So we can enable the NATing also, and then we have to add the interface which we want to use it in the NAT. So we can add the interface. Now here if we have mentioned the name, then it will be easy for us. This is the interface, and this is what, either it is private or public. So we have to select whether it is a private interface or public interface, and for that if we have changed the name, then it will be easy for us. Like for example, I will change the name, like this one is having which IP address? It is having a public IP address. So I will say this is what, my public network external. I will rename it that this is my network interface which is connected to internet. Then this will be my internal network interface. So I will rename it to my internal. Now it will be easy for me to enable the NATing. So I will go to add the interface, and then okay, I have to refresh it. It is still showing the old name. Okay, now it is saying internal and internet. So what, I will select internal first, and then I will say this is my private network, this is my internal network. Then I will select the external network that is connected to internet. and then I will select this is my public network. And then if you don't enable netting, then it will do only routing. If you want to enable the netting, then you have to select this also. So if you don't select this, it will do only the netting, routing, like we have done already, default. But if you want to do the netting, then you will select this also. And also we can decide to have the address pool for the public addresses. Right now we have only one address, so it can work with one, but if we want, then we can enable the pool of addresses also. And also then we can decide which services need to be net. So this is my internal interface, this is my internet interface which is connected to internet. And now rest of the thing will be done by the routing and remote access server. It will do the netting, it will translate the addresses from the internal network to the internet IP address. So this is how we can configure the routing and remote access services. We can configure the routing, normal routing, we can configure the advanced routing, static or dynamic RIP, or we can configure the netting also. Also we can enable the DHCP relay agent also. Now implementing web application proxy. First, what is this? What is web application proxy? Now this is a web application proxy. That means web application, that means whatever the web application or website we have, it can act as a proxy for it. It was introduced in Windows Server 2012 R2 and is a reverse web proxy functionality, and it uses ADFS proxy functionality. It is located in a parameter network. Now first you have to understand what is ADFS. This ADFS is actually provide the single sign-on connection. Single sign-on connection. That means if suppose we are having a domain network here, suppose this is our forest. Now this is a forest, that means forest is a security boundary, and the resources of the forest or domain can only be accessed by the members of the domain and the forest. Other users cannot access these resources. Now for example, we have some external clients. Let's say we have some vendors, we have some other clients which need to access some of the resources of our forest. Now if they want to access the resources of our forest or our domain, then they have to be a member of our domain. But we don't want them to make the member of the domain. We don't want them to be a member of the domain. So if they are member of the domain, then direct access will work. We can configure the direct access and they can use the connection through the direct access. But we don't want them to be a member of the domain. They are just a vendor party. They are just third party users. They are just a member. They provide something, like they are sending something, selling something to our organization, or we are selling something to them. So we just want to access them to some resources or see that use some resources of our organization. So they are just vendors, or suppose they are clients also. Also we can do this ADFS to provide a secure connection to our own clients also through the internet environment. So it is actually a very easy way to give this, because direct access will allow everything, but this ADFS we can select that what we want to allow. Now how the direct ADFS works, we configure the ADFS server with the Active Directory services, and to give the access, like what access we want to give. We want to give the application, whatever the application there in our organization, whatever the data's resources are we have in the our organizations. So we want to only give to those access we want to give. So we can give through the ADFS. Now for giving the access, we have to create the web application. That means through this ADFS, we want to give the access through the ADFS. Then we have to develop the application here, and through that application they will get the access. So when they want to get the access, these clients, they do what? They access our web server, and from the web server they can access our web application, and that web application will give the interface to log in. So when they log into that application, it will give the access, it will authenticate the user through the ADFS, and whatever the resources that user is allowed, it will provide through the web application. That means it will get the interface just like it is using a web application. It will feel like it is a website, and it is a website. Through the website it is using the different applications or servers. So they have to authenticate themselves through the application, that web application, the website, and then after the authentication, that means authentication done by the ADFS, and then what, after that they will get the interface, like they get the front page, and then on that they will get the options to click on the resources. They click on the resources or application and they get the resources in application through the internet, just like a website we are using. They feel like they are using a normal website, but it is all happening by the ADFS authentication. Now we have a problem here that this web application web application server is located into our internal network. Remember, it is our internal network. Now we don't want this client to access our internal resources. So what we do, we create the parameter network after the firewall. Remember, we have a parameter after the internet. Whoever wants to come into our internal network, they have to come to the first, cross the firewall, and then they have to come to the parameter network. In the parameter network, we put all the servers which can be accessed through internet, and those networks, those resources, those servers like web server, mail server, we don't want them to get access of internal network. So they can get the access of web server, mail server, so they can get it from the parameter network. So this is a secure environment. If anyone wants to get into our internal network through the internet, then they have to cross another firewall, and then they can come into our internal network. Now if we don't have the web application proxy server, then what, these clients have to cross these two firewalls, and we have to allow them to enter into our internal network. But remember, they are not our domain members, they are not our client, they are third-party vendors. So we don't want them to come into our internal network and access this web application proxies, web application servers to get the ADFS services. Because ADFS authentication services, these services can only be accessed through this web application. So we don't want them to come into our internal network and access this web application. So what we can do, we can configure the web application proxy here under the parameter network. So these clients don't have to come to this application server, this web server. They can get the access from this web application server. They don't have to come to here first. First they will access the web application proxy server, and this will act as a proxy for this ADFS application, web application, and then it will forward the request. If the user says the authentication, it provides the username and password. So this application proxy server will forward the request to this ADFS server, and then if the ADFS server allowed them, then only they will get the access of our internal application here, that means this web application, and then only they can access the resources. So directly they cannot enter into our internal network. They have to first connect this application proxy server to authenticate themselves. When they are authenticated, then they will get the access of this internal web application, and then the web application will provide the resources through the ADFS authentication. So basically, for configuring this web application proxy, it only supported this, we need what, ADFS configured. So when we have a ADFS server configured, the environment is configured, we have the web application configured for ADFS, then we can configure the web application proxy. It only provides the proxy for our original web application of ADFS. So it provides what, authentication option for web application proxy. These are the authentication options. The user authentication, that means the user authentication done by the ADFS pre-authentication, and also we can use the pass-through pre-authentication. Pass-through pre-authentication, that means this application proxy, this web application proxy server will not forward the authentication first to ADFS. It will directly pass the authentication to the web application server if we select pass-through. But if we select the ADFS authentication, then it will first authenticate the user from ADFS, then it will pass the user to the application server, original web application server. What is the benefit of ADFS? As I said, it provides the workplace joining. That means we can join the workplace to access the resources. It provides the single sign-on feature. That means only one time you have to sign on to get access of every resources available on ADFS. Then multi-factor authentication we can have the multi-factor access control also. by using the ADFS. So ADFS in web application proxy, what we do, we actually publish the web application of ADFS. So publishing the application with the web application proxy, that means after the web application proxy server role is installed, you must configure it by using the web application proxy configuration wizard and from the remote access management console. And when the web application proxy configuration wizard completes, it creates the web application proxy console, which you can use for further management and configuration of web application proxy. And when you want to configure the web application proxy setting and you want to publish the web application through the proxy application of the ADFS, then what you need, first the ADFS server name you need, then you need the ADFS administrator credentials, then also you need the certificates which is used to configure the ADFS. So these are the things which you have which you require to configure the application proxy here. That means when you want to publish the web application, you have to type of the pre-authentication or for example pass through the application that will be published. So you need what the type of pre-authentication or the pass-through authentication you need. Then you need the application that will be published, the application which is the web application of ADFS, and the external URL of the application. For example, you have to need the URL which you want to publish. Then a certificate whose subject name covers the external URL, for example this. So whatever the URL you are mentioning, the certificate name must be that the same, and also the URL of the backend server. Then publishing the remote desktop gateway. So we can also configure the remote, publish the remote desktop gateway also. Same thing, you need the pre-authentication or pass-through authentication, this application that will be published, and the external URL of the application, for example this, and the certificate whose subject name covers the external URL, the name of the external URL, and also the backend server. Same thing for the remote desktop gateway also. If you want to configure the remote desktop gateway for the proxy, then also we need this same thing. So this is what the remote access services we have, where we can configure the routing, remote access. We can also configure direct access VPN, that will be covered in the next lecture. And also we can configure the normal routing, NATing, and also we can configure the web application proxy. But for configuring the web application proxy, we need to have configured first the ADFS. That will we will do that also in the next lectures or the future lectures.